Hi, and welcome back to Dirtbag Baseball Talk, everybody. Kirk, along with a special guest you've been asking for, Dirtbags, and one of our proud sponsors of the Dirtbag Baseball Talk podcast on Sports Byline USA is Your Credit Pulse, and I've got the man himself with us this week, or on this episode anyways, Thomari Story-Harden, and great to have you here with us, Thomari.
Hey, Kirk, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, like I said, man, the Dirtbags have been asking for you and wanting to know a little bit more about what your credit pulse is. And you and I have joked around about it, lightheartedly, but on the serious side of it as well, right? Credit being something that some people are very comfortable speaking about, but the majority aren't very comfortable about, right? And I think that was the big part of why we want to make sure we brought this episode to everybody to let them know that you're a resource, a very incredible resource that can really, I guess, help calm down the whole overwhelming part of what credit can be. So talk to us about it. What was your credit pulse? A little bit of your background and how it came to be and the evolution of it, if you will, Thomari.
Yeah, absolutely. So, your credit pulse was just an idea that I had. When it comes to credit, we don't typically go to school for that. There's no classes you can take. The only class I know is the School of Hard Knocks. You get your credit card at 18, and you think it's like unlimited money, and you max it out, and you figure it out later. And most people, they don't know how that part works, and I was one of them. Grew up single mom. My mom, she taught me a whole lot, but like one of the things that I had to learn along the way was like credit, because like, again, where we came from, they didn't really preach it in schools and things like that. So I ended up learning how to. Well, actually, when I retired from the Dodgers, I went into the mortgage field, and luckily that field, you have to look at credit reports literally every day. And so I was fascinated about credit and how it worked, and then also I didn't want to turn people away that maybe their credit wasn't ready to go, but just through education and basically I like to relate it like baseball, like it's a team game. Oftentimes when it comes to my clients, I might give them some homework. Hey, do this, do that, or pay this card down. And then on my end, I might help them with like the actual fair credit reporting side of it. And so when it comes to disputing and what kind of laws that protect them from, getting taken advantage of with their credit and how it's reported, then we're working together, and then we're able to put that plan in action. And that's what I really like about the evolution of Credit Pulse, because it was just an idea, one day, and then the next day when the market crashes and everyone's kind of scrambling around trying to figure out what they're going to do, I happen to be in the mortgage field, and through that I was able to come up with the process that's helped a lot of homeowners get into their first house. And that's pretty special when you can help somebody with that big of a purchase in their life.
For sure, no question about it, and that's the big thing, right? There's many walks of variations of life on how you're looking at credit, how you need it to help you, and like we always talk about, right? It was all about building a roadmap, I guess, like we always say, right? The same thing with the Dirtbag Baseball Talk, and I know your team Avenue Baseball as well, right? And when you think about it, because you're right, we don't learn it in school for whatever reason. It's almost like they don't want people to be credit smart, which is sad. It's sad, I guess, is the simplest way for me to put it. But absolutely, like for you personally or whatever, and that you would have seen it not only growing up and that, even though as all youth, we don't really pay attention to that, nor should we necessarily or whatever now, but definitely in your minor league days with the Los Angeles Dodgers, you would have seen it. You would have seen other minor leaguers, the top dogs, maybe you make a little bit extra money to keep the head above water, so to speak, but a lot of them in the minor leagues, you're floating. You're floating and trying to keep the head above water, right? And a lot of them, I'm sure, were not educated either on that process. So I'm sure you saw a lot of people overwhelmed.
Yeah, Kirk, you're right. And in fact, I get a lot of my buddies that played in the minor leagues with me, even to this day. They call me and say, "Hey, I know you've been in the credit business, man. Hey, this is, I went through this bad divorce, or you
Yeah.
know, I went through this tough time in my life, and I don't really know how to fix my credit, And so that's the beautiful part about, once you have the education piece, no one can take that away from you.
Yeah.
Um, it's like a game. It's like a baseball game. It's a credit game. Once you learn the rules of engagement and you know how it's played, and you know the rules, then you can go ahead and you can play. But if you don't have that education piece as far as where you are today, and how maybe you have some goals, and hey, I want to go to this Cooperstown trip that
Yeah.
all these parents are talking about, but like my credit, I wanted to finance it possibly, or I wanted to like kind of help it build my credit, and so the beautiful part about the learning the game is once you know where you're at, that's the best place to be in, because now there's hope. Because most people, the not knowing where you're at is really the scary part. Not knowing kind of like what your score really translates in terms of getting approvals, in terms of what is good credit for you and your family versus maybe someone else in their family. So just knowing where you're at and how to leverage that to it benefits yourself and your family. That's once you learn the rules, play the game. Now you're in the game and you're not on the sidelines.
For
Because
sure.
again, being on the sidelines, nobody wants to be on the sidelines. We all want to be playing the game, and we want to be able to do it the right way. And that's the beautiful part about your credit pulse, is because it's all about your credit pulse. It's either going to be a healthy pulse, or it's going to be like, you might want to start, looking at your diet kind of thing. Let's work as a team to get that healthy pulse going, to where it's not so many dips and your score is going up. And so really that's what your credit pulse is all about.
Yeah, I love that. I love it because that's exactly what it is ultimately at the end of the day. It's your credit. And what is your pulse for? What is your, you know, allowance for allowing, for example, a person like yourself that's educated into it, but allowing them into my financial world, right? And exactly right. Does my pulse go up? Does it go down? Is it a tolerable thing, or is it not a tolerable thing? So let's go through a few of those things, if you don't mind, Thomari, for the audience as well. You're talking about it. So how many years are under your belt at this point in time between the mortgage plus the hard-on credit side of things?
So I got into the credit business in '07 when I retired from baseball. So, we're in 2022 now. So like I've been in the credit game, so to speak, since then. Luckily, like I said, back then I was in the mortgage um, circle as well, where we're able to help people with the home buying process. So luckily, that combination really helped throughout these years, because the way that people look at credit is been a lot different. We know we had a housing crisis, which that was horrible, as far as like people just losing their house, and then now they have a foreclosure on their credit report. If you have a foreclosure, that means there's been some lates,
Yeah.
and if you have lates, that's very detrimental to the score. So luckily in that time, um, they made a rule. The lender said, "Hey, you have 2 years, as long as it's been discharged, like a bankruptcy or something. Like let's just say you had to go through a bankruptcy, which that'd be another negative item that would be on a credit report.
Sure.
But then like you have 2 years to kind of fix what was going on in terms of getting your score back, and now you can be back in the lending game. And then as long as you kind of learn your lesson in terms of what and it could have been like just a harmless hey, I didn't really know when I bought my house at the peak of the market, and I didn't know the market was just going to crash. I mean, that's no one's fault. That's just like, you know, again, the school of hard knocks, where something out of your control happened, but then you like learn about it, like and embrace the knowledge piece, because these laws are consumer laws, right? So these laws are for the consumer in terms of how it's reported on your credit. Like it could be like you can have three accounts, three different account numbers. That can't be one of them. One of them, if it's three different ones, the possibility of at least one right, but those two that are wrong, then that's an example of something that's not accurate information that a creditor put on your credit. Even if they try to pull your credit and they pull it from a different address, a lot of times when I see that, that could be identity theft, because someone from another state, if you just see a random state like Texas and you live in California as your primary residence, that could be identity theft. So having a monitoring service is very important. So when times like that happen, you catch it right away versus like not really knowing where you're at. And then later you find out someone bought a car or a house or something under your credit. And now that's showing negative and inaccurate. So now again, the credit repair side of things, knowing that will put you in a better position to like be able to recognize it, number one, and number two, know the call of action on how to reverse it and get it off, you know. And so
fantastic
that
information.
of the mortgage and the real estate, you know, kind of comes together when it comes to credit, because I work very closely with mortgage consultants, and me being one in the past, it helps me learn the, you know, what they need, the clients to how they can help them qualify and how we can work as a team to do so as well.
For sure, right? It's that accreditation and that network that you build over time, right? And like you said, I mean, you're talking 15, 16 years now in the business and stuff like that. So wealth of knowledge. And like you said, you've been through a couple of volatile times in the history of real estate, but finances across the board, right? Stock market as well. So, you know, where I want to go right now with you, Thomari, is something that you and I know. We know that this is absolutes in the baseball worlds that we also exist in. So first off, I want to talk to you about the people that have come across you and used your services as outside of Team Avenue baseball, but also within Team Avenue, because it's all relative at the end of the day. And that target audience that I'm talking about out there, dirtbags, right now, is if you're a parent of a high school student athlete, it doesn't have to be just baseball right now or whatever. Yes, this is baseball, but it doesn't have to be. Son, daughter, whatever it is. How many times do you see people lose out or go into further debt because everybody wants to put their child through? As a parent, you want to put your child through college and get them that college education, right? And yes, we all dream about the scholarship, but as we know, the scholarships are available, for sure they are, but they're not out there on full rides across the board. So in some way, shape, or form, you're looking at putting financial investment into that education.
100%.
How do you help navigate that, Thomari?
Yeah, I think the best way is like really like pulling back the layers and finding out where the student is and where the parent is, you know, because, you know, when it comes to credit, you know, there's two separate profiles. And I feel as though like when it comes to the students, knowing how they want to shape their credit, so to speak, and design their credit, I think it's very important to know on the parent to know where their side is and where they're at currently, and then also for the student athlete, because little things that you can do, like I don't know if some people out there know about the strategy piggybacking, where you're able to add a family member to your credit card as a way where they're able to start building their credit up, and then the student athlete, they're building their credit up, but the parent, they're not losing anything because that card comes back to the card holder, right? And so that history, if they have good utilization and that maybe that card's been open for about 10 years, well, to someone that doesn't have credit and that's looking to go to college, that action right there is going to probably make their score, depending on utilization, it's probably going to increase their score by hundreds of points. Just that move. If you don't have a score and then all of a sudden you have 700s, that's a lot. That's a big difference, you know? And it's a big difference on how credible that person is, because when FICO or whatever reporting service actually grades and says, hey, your score is this because you've done this and this is the history on your credit, now that could be the difference of getting approved for a student loan or not getting approved for a student loan. And that debt that goes on a credit report, I would much rather it be debt for helping my son or my daughter build their credit. And maybe I might be trying to buy a house for the family right now, and the DTI of the student loans are going to go on my credit, and I'm trying to qualify for the house for his little brother and sister that they're trying to do the same thing. So I got to learn this. So it's like kind of like a process where it's okay. First, yes, credit. If doing that little move right there, that could have been the difference of getting and how to like manage debt is important when you're trying to buy a house. So the debt to income, the higher it is, the lower of quality and purchase price that you can have in terms of like whatever area you're looking in, right? So it's all about maximizing where you are and then strategizing based off of that information. And that's where education comes in, because then once you're educated and on your options and what you can do, then you can take one situation and say, I know my goal is this. Well, then X, Y, and Z, let's all sit down at the round table and really put that plan of action together. And that's the beautiful part, because it doesn't really matter where you're at. I've seen credit scores, like I said just now, like that don't even have a credit score, but all of a sudden now they have 700s within 30 days, right? So it's like I've seen those shifts because of like, again, knowing the goal. So it doesn't matter what their score was. If it's in the 300s, 400s, no big deal. All right. Now we know where we're starting at. The goal is going to a travel ball tournament this summer. Okay. All right. Perfect. We're also trying to buy a house. Okay. Perfect. So let's see how we can put that plan together. And so I would take that family and I would have everybody, you know, at the round table, because that's a great experience to kind of take a situation that may look like kind of shaky into like an experience where everybody's learning from it and everybody knows their role, right? And then once we start saying, hey, your job is to, hey, you know, help mom and dad out. Let's get your, you know, kind of score going, because we might want to, you know, give you the responsibility of having, you know, your credit being built as you're going through college. We've got the authorized users we talked about over here. We may have like $50,000 worth of student loans over here, right? And then that's it right there. That's a great start, because then you can get maybe your first credit card instead of like not knowing what to do. Let's manage that. Let's manage, hey, only spend between 1 and 25% on this credit card. And just know by you just doing that, you're optimizing your credit, you know, and knowing when the ending dates are on the credit card statement, because then you can time it to where when you make that payment in the 1 to 25% range, you know, when it updates with the bureaus, that your score is always going to be optimized at the best possible score, because you knew that rule of that game, that you're just playing with credit. So when you make it a game and you make it fun, it's like, okay. And then you have a monitoring service where you can see, oh man, my score went up 15 points this month just by learning one thing. Boom. You see what I'm saying? So it's like kind of taking all of the information and then putting it together so everybody wins and everybody's working together to accomplish that goal for that family. That travel ball is expensive nowadays. So every little move is gonna go a long way in terms of putting money in your pocket versus the bank's pockets, because we know interest rates and things like that, if not taken in consideration, it can be the difference of losing a house or not being able to take advantage of an opportunity.
Well, and that's it. You're completely right and stuff. And I know you've got a network outside of your credit pulse that for the high school student athlete, the recruiting process part of it or whatever, and that you guys also utilize in that. But before we get into that a little bit with you, Thomari, and stuff like that, let's say we've got the dirtbag out there and you're a parent and you got that high school kid and stuff like that. I want you to get the information right now to them, if you don't mind. Let's get it out to them. So if they don't need to go any further on this episode, hey, you don't need to go any further. If you're in that target audience that we just talked about, that high school parent, student athlete, hey, where can they reach you? How can they get in touch with you and start this process?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's Your Credit Pulse. So www.yourcreditpulse.com. And as far as my phone number, you can call me directly at 559-761-9421.
Yeah. So there you have it. Hey, if you're in that target audience, like I just said, dirtbags, get on the phone, get on the blower right now with Thomari and stuff like that. Get that process started. Like, it's got to be common sense. Why would we do this episode if we weren't passionate about it and want to see you be successful and help you do this journey? Hey, Thomari isn't there yet. I've been there as a parent. I've been there twice. It's daunting. It's daunting. And so let's not fool around about it. Let's get down to business and get down to work. All right. So following up on that, like I just said, Thomari, and that I know you've got a bit of a network. We're almost running out of time for this episode and that, but I don't need you to go long about it, but just kind of how does that process? So I assume they sit down with you, like you said, you go through the round table, you start to get the education, the knowledge is power process. And then is it after that time that you then, once they're engaged and you know the numbers are looking good and the credit's looking positive, that you go ahead and you share the additional information of where to look for student loans or other great companies and resources?
Yeah, it's just really like you made a great point, after knowing and really finding out, like pulling those layers back and really finding out where the family, where they're really trying to go. Because sometimes they don't really know. They just say, hey, let's sit down. We know we just want the best thing for our son. That's usually what they say. A
Yes.
lot of parents that I sit down with, they've never gone through this experience before. Kind of like how I was when I kind of got thrown into it and I just had to kind of figure it out, right? So now we don't necessarily have to figure it out as much in terms of like, hey, what do we do? It's really identifying really what the players' goals are and what the parents' goals are, because you'll be surprised that the players' goals and the parents, they can be on two different pages. You
Yeah,
see
they
what I'm saying?
are.
And then the parents can want to kind of drive the ship a little bit more when the player's just like, hey, I just want to play ball. But if the parents look like they're kind of trying to take too much control, then if the coach picks up on that, then that could be like a detriment to the player, or like the vice versa. The player kind of like not wanting to take that ownership of, hey, I gotta, this kind of, you know, identifying what they want to do, but then like, all right, now there's some action steps where I might have to, as a player, I might have to email a coach, call a coach. Now that move right there to a coach, it says a lot of things. One of the things it says this player is somebody that I want playing for me in terms of communication, because when there's communication involved, or the player's taking charge versus the parent writing the email or calling, that goes so it goes so far for the player if you can show that ownership, that you can take over the ship on what you want. And you've identified what you want and you know how to get it because you're calling the coach and you're marketing yourself and you're
Sure.
telling the coach, number one, who you are as a person. I think like when it comes to recruiting, if you can say, hey, if I can articulate who I am as a person, hey, I might do community service. I might have a foundation that I started, a nonprofit, just to help homeless, or like the lack of education. I might have started something that no one even knows about because I haven't told them. And so like if I'm starting to tell my story, right? I'm starting off with my character, because
Great.
we know most coaches, they don't care how good you are, or how great your grades are. If you're not a good person and you're going to represent their school and your family in a positive way, uh, the name on the front and the name on the back, if you're not willing to do that, I know me as a coach, I don't want that player to be a cancer on my team. So therefore, I don't need to know any more information other than, all right, it was nice meeting you. There's other jobs or potential spots out there that, you know, probably our organization isn't the right one for you, right?
You're
So
bang
being
on.
able to articulate that at a young age will help so much, not only in that moment, but also further in life when you have a job interview, something like that, right?
For sure, for
And
sure. That's the bonus right there, dirtbags, because we were talking about financial credit, but really what Thomari just said for your child, your son out there, a player out there, if you are that, is now you just build personal credit, personal characteristics credit, identification credit with your coach. And that's huge. So, we know that there's so many more questions that you have for us for sure and stuff like that. So you can either send them in to me, Kirk at Dirtbag Baseball Nation. You can direct message me on Instagram or Facebook at Dirtbag Baseball Nation. Twitter, the same thing at Dirtbag Nation and #1, or through our YouTube channel where you're watching all these videos at Dirtbag Baseball Talk. Comment, leave them for Thomari and myself, but same thing, Thomari. Where can they get in touch with you again or whatever? And they want to get this process started. They want to start the process with you and get involved. Where can they go?
So they can go to yourcreditpulse.com, www.yourcreditpulse.com, or they can call me directly at 559-761-9421.
Yeah, and there you go, man. Again, we don't want to keep you too long, Dirtbags, because we know you're probably excited and you should be. And like we said, if you have more questions, send them to us without hesitation. That's where they're there for us. So on a personal note, big fella, can't thank you enough for being part of the nation. We love you. It was fantastic to be able to get you on. And we're just starting the evolution of this whole game or whatever and stuff like that. So let's keep this big freight train rolling, as they say, right?
Let's do it. I'm happy to be on the team, and I appreciate the opportunity that you're giving me.
Yeah, for sure. And likewise, it goes both ways for sure. So Dirtbags, whether it's Thomari's Team Avenue Baseball that you saw last week's episode or whatever in that, or Your Credit Pulse, you know what? Get involved with them, research them. You've seen the big guy himself right now in person or whatever and that. You know the history, you know the background, you know the common sense approach that he has to it. And that's what we love, the whole package. It's all right there. So we're all in this for you. You know that. We're all in this for you, with you, and because of you. So keep the questions coming. Keep the excitement coming. That's what we're here to do. Do not hesitate. Until the next time, you know what time it is. It's time to get up, get after it, and get dirty.